Welcome to the Maltepes Show. I am here with highly esteemed, highly esteemed and great Philadelphia native and journalist, columnist, and one of the best people I know, Joe Santoliquito.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Matt.
Of course, he's an award-winning sports writer based in Philadelphia. He's written feature stories for Sports Illustrated, ESPN.com, NFL.com, MLB.com, Deadspin, Philadelphia Daily News, Philadelphia Inquirer, and Ring Magazine. In 2006, he was nominated for 2 times for an Emmy Award for a special project called Love at First Beep for ESPN.com. Mm-hmm. He is most noted for his award-winning ESPN.com feature on high school wrestler 𝐒𝐨𝐫𝐭𝐬 that appeared on SportsCenter and HBO. In 2014, he was elected president of the Boxing Writers Association, and he just got inducted into the Atlantic City Hall of Fame, Boxing Hall of Fame, alongside George Foreman.
Yeah. I'll be me and George. I'll be the headliner.
That's some great company.
Yeah, it is.
How does that feel?
It's a great honor. It really is. I got the call in January by Ray McCline, who I believe your pop knows. It kind of took me aback for a little bit because each year that I believe it's the 7th class that's going in. And I thought actually Ray was saying, hey, Joe, these are the guys going in. And I was going to load up and just say, okay, let me make a list, and I'll start getting in touch with some of these guys and do a story on this. Wait a second here. But I said, I got some good news for you. You're going in. I said, what? You got the wrong number.
Wait. Whoa. You got the wrong guy. Me?
Yeah.
You were shocked, huh?
Yeah. I was. And it's still kind of, still kind of sinking in a little bit. I didn't, it's like one of those things where you look around and like, see, I think I'm blessed with. I like what I do. I really enjoy what I do. And when you enjoy something, you don't see it as a labor of love. Sometimes it is, with some of the stories I've done and some of the reporting and some of the time that I commit to stories and trying to sink in and get deeper layers into what
Get to
makes
the
people
depths.
tick. Yeah, and I kind of take pride in that. Very proud of the things I've done. More so with boxing and covering the kids in high schools. Some things I've mined, some particularly really interesting stories that I always have with me. But I enjoy it. And then suddenly, you get this call in mid-January that you're about to be in the AC Boxing Hall of Fame, and that's it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. I'll really admit it's pretty cool.
I mean, it'd be pretty cool if you're getting inducted into the Atlantic City Boxing Hall of Fame alongside George Foreman, one of the greatest fighters of all time.
Yeah, that took a little adjusting too, because I've interviewed George a number of times. George is an all-time great. I am not an all-time great. So
you're a Philadelphia all-time.
Well, what doesn't belong? And I would say I would point the finger at myself. But it is a great honor. It's nice. And the other thing I get a kick out of is that my family's going to be there. I was hoping possibly you and your pop trying to make the trip down. Obviously, it's a very busy time of the year, but that's. It's going to be pretty cool. A lot of friends, a lot of family, a lot of very, very close people to me. So for them, they're getting a kick out of it, which in a sense,
well, that's what it is, right? It's like when you share good news with those around you and they're happy for you, it kind of makes you happy. Right? It's real joy.
Yeah. I tell people each year, as president of the Boxing Writers Association of America, I tell people each year that I am a very selfish individual. I am a very, very bad man because I get a kick out of seeing you've been to those dinners. You see
Boxing Gala.
Yeah, you see the way these guys.
Copacabana.
These guys. Floyd Mayweather, Canelo Alvarez, all the biggest names, and you see them suddenly melt into like little kids when they get these awards. Fighter of the Year. Fight of the year, manager of the year, trainer of the year, things like that. And you would figure these guys are millionaires, 4 or 5, sometimes in Mayweather's case, 10 or 12 times over. And it's still a big deal, for Floyd to, when he received that Fighter of the Year award. That was a huge deal. I remember giving one of our awards to Canelo Alvarez a couple years back in Vegas. He wasn't able to make our fair that year, but we were able to give it to him in person prior to one of his fights. And it was pretty cool. He's a
good guy. Huh?
He's a real. Actually, I like Canelo quite a bit.
Canelo, I saw him. I went to a Dolce & Gabbana party. Right, I was invited to a fashion show. Went to the fashion show after there was an after party, and he was there.
Wow,
and it was pretty cool. Like they cut a cake for him.
Yeah,
because it was his birthday and whatnot. And yeah, he seems like a great guy. Just like real, down to earth.
Yeah, and it's a shame because I think for a while. He got an unfair knock, I think, for a while, and I admittedly fell into that grouping of people that saw him in a certain way. But getting to know him, obviously, the accolades and what he's achieved inside the ring are unparalleled for this time period. Right now, if I had to vote for Fighter of the Decade, and we're 3 years in, he's certainly a strong candidate for Fighter of the Decade for the 2020s. He's without a doubt a Hall of Famer. There's no question about that. But then when you see, again, when you pull the curtain aside and you see the way he is with his family, you see the way he is in terms of how he runs his business, you see how organized he is, you see the way he carries himself just as a regular guy. And there's a lot to like. I think, again, for years, I think some people got a unjustified bad rap. And I remember coming up to him 2 years back and just saying, dude, I mean, I had you way, way wrong. And I apologized to him. Every once in a while when we're together, he and I will laugh, and I still apologize to him. And he'll give me, Joel. and he has this little eloquent way when he speaks. He's still trying to get English down, but he's highly intelligent, far more intelligent than I think some people give him credit for. I think he's an amazing businessman, and how he's run his business, how organized his business is. I mean, I don't think you're going to see Canelo Alvarez 15 years from now, 20 years from now, whatever, panhandling in front of a Center City storefront. I mean, this guy has it going on, and he's provided for his family, his grandchildren, his great-grandchildren, and probably his great-grandchildren on the success he's had from a little kid who used to sell popsicles on street corners in Mexico City. It's an amazing, amazing story.
It is an amazing story. But that's the thing, right? When people look at these superstars or these people, famous celebrities, whatever the case is, people that have this big profile and image, you don't know them as a person. You only know the image that the media or they create for their brand. And they're two different things.
Yeah.
It's something that people have a hard time differentiating between the two.
Yeah. Very good coffee, by the way.
Thank you. I appreciate it. The Maltepes Show brought to you by Coffee of Gods, the best damn coffee on the planet. Put lightning in your veins.
Yeah, and here you go, dude. I don't even drink coffee, and I like it.
Well, it's your first time drinking coffee, right?
Yeah. This is a new world. I may be stuck here. I may, after a few more sips of this, might not need my car to run home. I could just run home.
You got the energy, got the caffeine running through him, the lightning.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So let's talk about you, Joe. You started out, you're born in Philadelphia?
Born technically in Philadelphia, yes. Raised in the Philadelphia suburbs in Delaware County.
Oh, Delco.
Yeah, I'm a Delco guy. Some of that does come out. If you haven't noticed already, some of it comes out. Like your pop, just like your old man. You got it in your veins too, man.
Hey, I'm not denying it. But all right, so you grew up in Delco, Philadelphia area. You ended up going to Cardinal O'Hara and Temple.
Yeah.
Tell me about your time over there.
Well, some people know this, some people don't. Mom passed away when I was very young. And Dad, God bless him, Dad raised the three of us by himself, myself, my brother, my sister.
It's not easy.
Oh, my God, no. And through time, you get a greater appreciation for your parents. There again, I got to watch myself. I don't get too choked up here. I mean, the Hall of Fame ceremony and the whole thing like that, I do wish, obviously, your mother and father would be there for it. But Dad was anything and everything. I mean, my father was working 3 different jobs. I remember he would get us up to go to school at 6:30 in the morning. We'd get out, take the bus, or at times, by the way, my mother passed away when we were still in grade school, so he'd wake us up, we'd go to school, we'd come home around 3:30, 4 o'clock. I remember specifically we had to be home 5 every day because he did one-stop shopping with Pop. He did everything. He made sure dinner was there. And, you know, when you're a kid, obviously you're stupid kids. You know, so every once in a while you got to try to blow that curfew. And dumbass kids not realizing things had to be down to almost the second with my Pop because he went literally from one job working as a local administrator for a municipality, cook us dinner. Then after, you know, supervise us with our homework and things and what we had to get done. Then I remember, this is 2 years after my mom passed away, we literally walked everywhere. And Dad would walk from home to Two Guys department store on McDade Boulevard, work there from 6 to 10 at night as a salesman in the electronics department. And then from there, walk from Two Guys department store to, at the time, a mobile station on Ashland and McDade, which is now a Manhattan Bagel. And he'd work at that mobile station from 10 to 3 in the morning. Then he would walk home, sleep for about 3 or 4 hours, wake us up, and start that process again. The man did it for 3 freaking years.
Wow.
You know, and you don't get an appreciation for what he did until, you know, you're an adult yourself. And I just see what he did, and you know, and he would never take any credit for it. He didn't want to take any credit for it. But I do remember he would get a kick out of, for example, when I started to evolve and I'm getting some local bylines in a local paper, a couple of papers, he got more of a charge of it than I did. At first I got a charge of it, like anybody wants to see your name in lights, anybody wants to see your name in print. And he would grab sections of different papers and just cut them out. And I remember him making a collage for me, which is pretty cool. So yeah. I mean, that's stuff you never forget. I remember taking him and my brother more than a few times to ringside. I remember a big, gigantic Atlantic City show with Don King, and Don King regaling my old man. Yeah. So it was, I got I mean, would I like to have done more? Yeah. But, and then through time, things deteriorated, and Dad's health deteriorated. So it was November 25th, 2012, Dad passed away. But he got a chance to live his life. He got a chance to see his grandchildren. He got a chance to see us all do something. My brother's in law enforcement. He's done very well for himself. I'm doing what I'm doing. And, you know, it's... I think our success, he derived from our success. He lived vicariously through us, and we did, I think I'd like to say we did quite well, considering, again, the obstacles he was dealing with, because we were...
It's a lot.
Yeah, you think about this, too. We all grew up in the 70s, and at that time, think about this. It's very rare, if not at all, when a single man, whose wife, who's a widower, was raising 3 kids. I mean, they were going to take us away from him. You know, the 3 of us. So he fought. Nowhere. I mean, he was going to. I mean, literally and figuratively, he was going to die. There's no way in hell his 3 kids were going to be taken away from him. No way, no.
Well, I think I have a question for you, real quick.
Yeah.
Based on everything you said with your father.
Yeah.
In today's society, do you believe that hard work is a lost trait?
Oh my God, yeah. I think people today, especially I would say younger people today, want more handed to them. I think that's part of the trophy generation. With everybody getting a trophy,
Participation trophy.
Yeah, participation trophy. Yeah. With really not working as hard for it. I do see, with the amount of high schools that I cover, I do see a little bit more of a spin towards old-fashioned ways. I will say this, for example, I have the pleasure of covering, you know, the St. Joe's Preps of the world in football, the Imhotep Charters of the world in football. I see their young people there that they like to be pushed. They want old school. They want, you know what, I don't want to be handed this. I'm not going to accept that second place award. I'm going to get that first place award. As a matter of fact, I've seen those young people after the awards at state championships and things like that, you know, for in a respectful way. Yes, I'll accept that silver medal around my neck. But as soon as the coach walks by, I've seen many of these young people take that silver medal off. No, I don't want this. I want the gold. I want to win. Because this is what I did. This is the time I worked for. This is the time I devoted to this, and this is what I put into it.
Well, what I realized, and this goes for life, right?
Yeah.
When you miss a goal or you miss a challenge, or whether it's it can be a breakup, let's say it's in relationships, or, you're going for the championship, you ultimately fail and you put all that hard work into it. Well, what essentially happens is it helps you and it builds you and builds your character to be better.
Yeah.
And advance yourself to be better, not just for you, your family, but essentially what it does is it benefits society, because it goes, that's how much that spider web goes out.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. And it works at every level with the exception of the pro level. And the reason why I bring that up is, for example,
they're already getting paid.
You guys, well, one, they're already getting paid. But two, the time, the effort, the most valuable thing, which what I've discovered, and it's taken me a while to discover because I certainly have a rock head. Anybody that knows me will attest to that. But one of the things I've discovered, again, that's taken me some time, is the most important thing is rest. We do mention hard work, and these guys, for example, no one's going to work any harder than Jalen Hurts. No one. And if anything, with Jalen, is rest is the most important thing for him to indeed do that. When you rest, you do what? You rest, you grow. Your body has a chance to recuperate instead of that pounding. All these guys go through in every major sport that's played. The problem with failing at the highest level, for example, the Eagles losing the Super Bowl to the Chiefs, okay? Now, the Eagles are faced with a spot where them having had played more games, also with the Chiefs, but having played more games than anybody else in the league. So what's that do? That condenses your time to recover. That also condenses your time to build back up. So you need that time to recover, while the other teams are already working on the next season. They're already resting and the recuperative process for the next season. And it also allows the opposing the teams that didn't get that far, that allows them more time to put in. That allows them more time to work out, to train, to get bigger, to get stronger, to get faster. And regrettably, that time committed to success, sure, it has its dividends when it pays it pays in championships. Yeah. But the other side of it is that, again, when you lose, well, I'm not winning a title. Plus, on top of that, I got to catch up to everybody else that's already working and training and resting. So for the next season,
real quick. So when talking about the hard work, participation, when you were growing up, you were an All-American athlete, no?
Yeah.
How much hard work did you put in? How much?
Yeah, a lot.
Did you get any participation trophies?
I did not. No. Nor do I think at that time in my life I would be willing to accept it. Now I'm kind of chubby. Well, I am chubby. I'm chubby and bald. So you want to send me something? Yeah, I'll take it. Do I think I deserve it? No, but I'll take it anyway. But I was. Oh my God, I was a little monster. I was. I was able to get away with murder. I was a 132 pounder. Benching 290 clean. No drugs or anything. I was the human pincushion. I was the guy that got tested. But what did I squat? I never got 400. I squatted 390. I deadlifted 440.
About 400.
At 130 pounds.
Yeah.
So I was a little menace to society, and I think this is nature and God's way of getting back with the chubby and the bald over here. I was excuse my language, I was the kind of bastard that would walk around in the middle of December with the tight shirt on and everything, checking myself out in the reflection of the car windows, right, walking by. And God said, your arrogance, you're going to pay for it, and I'm paying for it now. But, I was very, 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 very committed. I was beyond committed. Matt, I was addicted. I was the guy I would work out at 2 or 3 in the morning.
So I have a question. Did that push you to go into sports media?
No, actually, when I was younger, I think a few years prior to my mom passing, I remember as a little kid, I came to the conclusion, looking at my mother and my father, I'm not going to get any bigger. This is, who are you? You, for the most part, you're your parents, God rest their souls. And I looked at mom and dad, I figured pretty young that, I don't see myself as the next coming of, at the time I grew up with Mike Schmidt and 𝐒𝐚𝐧𝐭𝐸 and my God, I loved Wilbert Montgomery, loved Doc. I grew up with Clark and Barber and Leach and Bernie
Old
Perrine.
school.
Yeah, that they were my idols. I mean, I still know far more about sports then than I do now, but still they were my guys growing up. And here I'm looking at them, I'm like, it came to a very young conclusion, very conclusion at a young age.
Sports.
I'm not going to be those guys. So I thought the closest to them would be somewhere, somehow in sports media. And I would fill up during the summers, I would fill up copybooks of like little stories. I'd make up little stories on different pretend things in different worlds. And for a long time too, I would assume, which I think a lot of people still are dealing with today that are coming out of school, I think writing's obviously very, very important, because if you can't write, you can't communicate. I mean, anything.
Same thing with speech.
Yeah.
People speak the language every day, but they're not articulate. They cannot speak. They're not good speakers.
No, because they make an assumption that, again, I think I know, and they don't. And I certainly for a long while didn't. I mean, I used to confuse what writing is with what reporting is. Reporting is who, what, when, where, and why. Okay. Writing is that ability to see something, draw something up, and be able to paint a picture with words. And I've had a lot of really, really good people that have helped me guide me in that direction, and that didn't happen until I got to Ring Magazine and worked under the tutelage of a Hall of Famer, Nigel Collins. I mean, he's the one that really put me straight to this is what reporting is, Joe. This is what writing is, and that didn't happen until my late 20s. So I'm out of school for a while, and again, I had no point of reference as to what I thought writing was reporting. I mean,
being into sports media, right?
Yeah.
Being in media. Do you think there's a difference between journalism and reporting?
It does work hand in hand. No, reporting is journalism, but I think reporting falls more into journalism than writing does. I think writing is separate from journalism, and I think to have and build through time a little bit of an artistic flair is something that is acquired, again, through time, through a lot of trial and error. I mean, I still push. I mean, there's some things that I'm really proud of that I did. For example, I did a piece on Adonis Stevenson, the former light heavyweight champion, who was pronounced dead not once but twice. And to write his story and what he went through, and him being incredibly transparent with me. I mean, he thinks he saw God. I hope he saw God, because if he saw God, maybe we're going to go someplace after we all kick off. But he was. I just remember telling that story. I remember telling the story of very recently Chris Bird, the former heavyweight champion, the undersized heavyweight champion, and Chris's problems with some demons in his life, and Chris's problems with some of the pain he's come across. 𝐒𝐚𝐥𝐿 𝐸 comes to mind. 𝐒𝐚𝐥𝐿 𝐸 was a welterweight who was a child soldier who was kidnapped, in Uganda. So this is a chance to turn around and throw myself into those things. I'm currently working on some things I don't want to completely give up, but young people who've been through incredible odds to get to some places that people didn't think they should be. And that is a weakness of mine, and that is a favorite of mine, that just to turn around and being able to tell those stories, that's the thing that drives me. That's the thing that I'll continue to look for until my last word's written, until my last breath's taken. That is something there, because they're the ones, for the most part, Matt, they're the ones that are ignored. They're the ones that we look by. I mean, it gives the people hope. Yeah. And,
motivation.
And what we do is we have a tendency, and you brought up a great point earlier, that sometimes we lose track of things like that. Sometimes we look at guys on the field, and all they are a number on the field. And believe me when I tell you, that pisses me off to no end. And I know for a fact, because dealing with these guys as closely as I deal with them, I know for a fact it pisses them off. They get treated like a number on the field, and that's why I suppose I have the relationship with the athletes, male and female, regardless of all ages, that I do, because to me, they're still people. I mean, I see what they do. I see the work ethic that they put into, and I see what they've come from. I mean, I'm in the process right now of working on a very special young man who's a basketball player who's like my story. His parent, he had a parent had passed away very early, and the sacrifices that his mom put in. But all anybody else sees is they see this kid who is a special kid too, by the way, very, 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 very special kid. And they see him and they see the big time school he's going to and all that, and they forget what got him there. And that's the stuff that I love doing. They're the kind of stories that I love writing.
So motivation, hope, inspiring.
Yeah, I try.
Well, that's what's you're behind. Let's touch up on something else. I do know you broke one of the biggest stories in Philadelphia history on Carson Wentz and the Philadelphia Eagles in recent history. How did that happen? Because it ended up being one of the biggest stories we've seen in Philadelphia. Yeah,
story of my life. Two things I like to say to people, and your pop knows this too because I repeat it all the time with him. I'm the guy that I have a habit of, regardless of the situation, I have a habit of landing on my feet. And sometimes I also have a habit of, I like to be lucky. It's better to be lucky than be good. And that happened after, if you remember, it was the Sunday night loss to Dallas, the season after the Super Bowl. So it's the 2018 season. And I, again, was in a situation where it's better to be lucky than be good. I walked into a spot where I was with a group of guys that were walking out of that stadium, angry as hell. They already spoke to the media, and they went off about a particular quarterback over here who did not play well that night, by the way. And if you remember the game, it was awful. And they were on the brink of not making the playoffs after they had won the Super Bowl the previous year. So they just went off about their quarterback and Captain Dummy over here, Captain Thickhead. I heard it. I absorbed it. I didn't think anything of it. And then I remember going back the next, I think it was 2 days after that. And here's the deal, is I got accused of you're only seeking players that thought a certain way. Well, here's the message to those dumbasses.
Before we get to that.
Okay.
So what was the story about, essentially? Let's break down for the viewers and audience.
The story was about basically how Wentz wasn't exactly all he was cracked up to be. The story was about how Wentz could have been a better teammate, how Wentz could have been a better employee. The story was about Wentz many, many times. And these guys actually wanted him to succeed, and it was frustrating to them that he wasn't. But I also got a good look at the underbelly of the Eagles at that time, that here was someone that was given a hell of a lot of power at a very, very early age in his career. And as numerous guys put it to me, Carson has the line to the bat phone, meaning he can call up Lurie. He has more power at the time than I was told than Peterson. He had more power at the time than Howie Roseman. He wielded that kind of power.
So he had Tom Brady-esque power, essentially.
Almost, yeah.
As a QB of the Philadelphia
Almost,
Eagles.
yeah, without really. I mean, Foles is the one that was on that field winning the Super Bowl. But Carson Wentz was the one that got them there. And I never contested that. If it wasn't for Carson Wentz, the Eagles would not, if it wasn't, strange coming from me, if it wasn't for Carson Wentz, the Eagles would not have won the 2017 Super Bowl. They would not have won it because he's the one that got them there. Carson's problem was getting in Carson's own way. And I tried talking to him. And obviously I'm beyond me. I'm not anyone, with any four-letter network or three-letter network. They certainly weren't going to give me access to him. But Carson wasn't exactly the most accessible, we'll say, to me either. So, you hear these things, and then during the course of that season, at first, guys were telling me these things, Matt. And I remember going to, and I can't forget Matt Mullen, who was at Philly Voice at the time, and Matt and I are both now with the Inquirer. I can't say enough about Matt Mullen. And I would like a little kid, I'd run to Matt, this is what I heard, and I'm hearing more of this, more and more of this. And then suddenly we're talking this may be something here. This may be something here. And we also had the idea that if some of these guys are talking to me, they got to be talking to somebody else. So we pushed it, and even up until the time of that Monday clear-out day, this was Monday, January 14th. Monday, January 14th, after the New Orleans divisional round loss. Yes. The Alshon
dropped the pass.
The Alshon deflection game. And I'll never forget Evan Macy, the Philly Voice sports editor, coming to me as we were literally standing right in front of Wentz's locker. It was clear-out day. It was the first time Wentz had spoken. Remember, Wentz was put on the IR that year. And again, credit to Wentz because he played with injuries. He played with a bad back. That was...
Yeah, I remember.
That was hidden. That was hidden.
No one talked about it.
Yeah. Oh, my God, yeah. And I have empirical evidence. I have concrete evidence. And here we go, coffee again. I had strong concrete
Best
evidence.
coffee on the world.
But I had clear evidence that this guy played wounded. But he also should have had the confidence enough to say, hey, listen, I am not 100%. And this is where some guys took that the wrong way. They didn't see courage. They saw a guy that was still trying to fight and scratch for his way. This is my team. I'm not about to give it up. Not realizing that, hey, you being 40 or 50% of yourself is not helping you and could possibly exacerbate your injury, and it's not helping us. Because a Carson Wentz at 90 or 100% is a winner, and a Carson Wentz at 90 to 100% makes us winners. But you
At
have
40%.
you have to park your own ego. So some guys took that the wrong way, that he's hurt and he wants to continue to play through the injury because he missed that limelight. That again, he wanted to put his face back on the franchise, not having the confidence and faith in himself to say, hey, listen, I'm going to take this step aside. Nikki 6, you take back over again. I know this is going to be my team. He had a fear. This is speculation, but strong speculation. He had a fear of losing that team. And I think that's what kept him going. I give him credit for the courage. I give him credit for playing in pain. But there was a side to him that turned around that he had to step back.
So, real quick, I don't mean to interrupt you, but so Carson Wentz was afraid of losing his team. I think he was afraid of again the season prior. You know, he sees all of his teammates win a Super Bowl, and even though he was a major part of it, and he didn't see himself that way. So it was, let me prove this myself.
Yeah,
essentially.
Yeah, and I want to be the face man of the Philadelphia Eagles. And again, I don't want to lose my position as the face man for the Eagles. And that was his fear, not realizing, dude, you're the face whether you're injured or not. You know, you're secure. There was more people that had more faith in Wentz than Wentz had in himself.
How big did this story that you broke, detailing and breaking down everything, all of the players, what they were saying, everything, all the information you found out, how big did that story get?
It was in the millions. It was in the millions, which kind of blew my doors off.
Did you expect that?
I didn't. I knew something was going to happen. I didn't think it was going to be as big as it turned into. I remember talking to your pop at the time, talking to a number of people that are in the Joe Inner Circle, and Dad knows where the bones are buried. A number of other people know where the bones are buried. But with that whole story, I didn't expect to. There was 1, 2, 3, 4. I think it was 7 death threats. I got DM'd.
So tell me, what were the pros and what were the consequences? What were the advantages? What good came from it? Then tell me also what bad came from it. Because a story that big, I mean, there has to be countless both ways.
If we spoke maybe 2 or 3 days after that story, there'd be a pile of bad because I didn't expect the amount of personal harassment that I received. I got dog poop in my mailbox.
Welcome to Philadelphia.
Yeah, I got dog poop in my mailbox. I got the death threats. I got the whole bit. I got this. I got that. I had people that had known me for 15, 20 years that literally watched me grow up, some of which were mentors of mine that I don't think very highly of anymore, and I have reason for that. I distinctly remember Sal Paolantonio saying after my story came out, this story has no legs, it has no legs. 2, 3, 4 years after that story was up, people were still talking about it. And I'll guarantee you this, if Wentz right now, who's unemployed, he just finished playing for his 3rd different team in 3 years, if he's picked up by another team, I will guarantee you, now, when he first left Philadelphia and something happened to him in Indianapolis, I was still getting like 17, 18, 20 interview requests. I don't do any, because we're family here, so I'm talking to you about it. But I had 15, 20 people reach out to me about doing stuff, and I'm done. You know? And then when they made the move, when Wentz made the move from the Colts to Washington, there was still a trickling of that. Not nowhere near as the tsunami. I must have gotten close to maybe when the story originally broke, there were 40 interview requests, bordering on I think 60. And I did a good handful of them, and I didn't mind that. But like I said, I had a bunch of people that I grew up with that, one, really pissed me off, that said I made it up. Now, and I always said this, listen, I got a lot cooking. And Matt, you of all people know how many oars I have in the water and all the national stuff I do. why don't I just get a gun to my head and shoot myself if I was going to turn around and make something of that degree up? That is career suicide, okay? And here's the twist of the story. So as I was saying, I had Evan Macy and I were standing in front of Wentz's locker that Monday clear-out day after the New Orleans loss, right? And Matt says, Evan Macy says, where's the story? And I said, right now I have 9 guys bitching about the quarterback, but I need some substantiation from, we'll just say, another outlet. Well, that outlet came that very night, that Monday night, what turned into what was supposed to be a 15-minute confirmation call turned out to be a 2.5-hour conversation call, which then spun off to another confirmation call to an even higher authority that Wednesday of that week.
I have a question, real quick. Did you reveal any of these sources?
My editors, no. The people that were there at Ground Zero knew
situation.
To. Yeah, and I let them know. And then people that are now to this day, people that are close to me, they know. Your father being one of them. They know who I spoke to, and I promised those guys. I got a pretty lucrative book offer very recently, within the last year and a half. It was for a really nice chunk of change, but it had to be. But it had to be. I had to name names, and I was not about to give those guys up, nor will I give those guys up. It wasn't. But the way one of my nieces put it to me, well, if it was a 7-figure sum, well, that's a different deal. Maybe I'm a bit of a life-changing money. I'd be, my toes would be in the sand somewhere down in Miami, and I probably would
Miami
never.
Vice life.
Yeah, I'd probably never write sports again, considering I'd betray all the guys that were huge sources to me. But the biggest thing to me,
it's not who you are.
Yeah, it's just, exactly. My word's the biggest thing. And I suppose that's why I have the kind of relationships I think I have in the world of boxing, still in the world of football, that are very important to me, high school, college, and pro basketball, Major League Baseball. I mean, you say something to somebody, that to me means something. And
unlike the people that you say went against you when the story came out.
Yeah, but the thing that bothered me with them, Matt, is no one had, if I can say, am I allowed to say balls?
You're allowed to say anything you want.
No one had
open and free discussion.
No one had the balls enough to approach me. No one had the guts enough to turn around and come to me and just say, hey, I got some social media, excuse my language, some social media bullshit that is just that. I mean, I think social media is bullshit to begin with. If you follow me, we both follow each other. I mean, you'll notice what I put. I post stories. I'll post story links and things like that. I think it's important for fans. I mean, it's important for fans to be heard. So in that respect, social media is important. But and I will respond. It's very, very rare that I respond to any social media that I don't know. If I don't know you, there's a likelihood I'm not going to respond to you. And I'm also, and I kind of grin with this a little bit, and you may know this already, I'm a notorious blocker. It comes to a point, sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not good. I mean, me and a group of guys every once in a while, we'll sit down, we'll have a block party. We haven't done it in a while.
Party.
Oh, yeah. Who can block the most? I mean, I think I have one time.
I have a question. Have you blocked any of the people that you feel betrayed by?
Well, I'm not going to say these people necessarily, some of the people in the media that came after me, I'm going to say not necessarily betrayed me, but
or turn their back on you, or however you want to talk about it, or they spoke negatively.
I suppose stabbing me in the back would be a good way of saying betraying. Sure. Yeah, we could say numerous. A number of them have been blocked. Yeah.
So there's a quote that I know of. It essentially goes, "You'll realize in life that some people you looked up to fall from grace as soon as you realize your perception of them was rather fake."
Yeah, I got an education. I got an education in a lot of ways. So, and I thought, it's interesting what you think. I mean, if I were to ever break a story of that magnitude again, there's going to be certainly borders that are going to be placed, and there's going to be a number of people that forget even approaching me or asking me about anything, and then there's even some people in the boxing world, if I break something big, to get approached, and I'm like, you know what, I'll get back to you. Now, I'm not going to turn around and be rude and say no. I'll just politely and professionally say, hey, listen, I'll get back to you, and that'll be the end of that. I don't. It's weird that I'm a person that works in the media that doesn't really like the media. I'm with a bunch of people in law enforcement that I know. My brother, my family. I have a number of actually close friends that are in the 3-letter law enforcement world, and we joke and kid all the time. Old school, old world cops in the area. The world cops that I know in Philadelphia, they obviously can't stand the media, and I'm like, I can't defend it because to a degree, I dealt with it, so I know.
That's essentially why I created the Maltepes Report, World News Media, bringing the world to you, because I wanted people. So as legacy media fades, we're just beginning, and it's based on and centered around open discussion, freedom of speech, and not just bringing the world to you, but bringing the world together.
Yeah, but also what gets me mad is people don't, if there's an issue, like, for example, again, we bring the one story up. I mean, I'm accessible enough that certain people could have called me and asked me, and they didn't even bother. They made a judgment. They made that's just it. They made a determination without any basis whatsoever, which still kind of blows my doors off because we still have it going on right now. We have it. I love what you used there a second ago. Legacy media, right?
As legacy media fades, we are just beginning.
Yeah, but part of the good thing with some legacy media, old school legacy media, with the people that I grew up with, they would make that call. They would turn around and almost like literally knock on your door. What is your comment on this? You're not answering my phone calls. You're not getting back to me, whatever. These are the types that would literally knock on my door to find out or get an answer. And in terms of legacy media, that perspective is good. The thing that I fear today is we're more so hot takes, which I don't really am not much of a fan of. You're going to make a judgment. You're going to make a judgment on something That story, the one story, was never going to run unless I got that final nail in the hammer. And to take a step further, and this is not speaking out of turn, out of the number of sources that we had for that story was actually sent to 4 different people and was literally in the NovaCare complex, not obviously sent to their Eagles email address, but that story was literally in that complex, just to say, hey, listen, is this wrong? Is this wrong? And when I got the okay, literally got the okay from those guys, that's when we said, green light it, bang, let's go. And, and I actually, when I look back on it, I wouldn't change a thing. I would not change a thing. I even with the dog poop on my mailbox and some of the harassment that I took, I would not change a thing. It's actually turned out to be pretty well because the car you see outside, I was teasing some people. It was going to have a vanity license plate of THX11. But that spun off, the story spun off into a lot of, I'll word it this way, a lot of lucrative outlets that are larger and bigger outlets. You got the GQ Esquire thing here looking and stuff like that. But just some larger, it led to larger opportunities with larger outlets that suddenly I was teasing again people that I know. Suddenly my words cost more.
So, speaking back on what you were saying, we talked about the Carson Wentz story, we talked about the lucrative opportunities, we talked about the bad, and you say you don't have any regrets. So what I realized is, I saw it somewhere, someone said it, some athlete somewhere said, no matter whether you loved me or you hated me, you watched.
Yeah.
Whether you loved me or hated me, you watched.
Yeah.
That's all you could do.
Yeah. And that's through time. Because the other thing with me, and again, you know me very well, I was the guy that wrote the story on how the offensive guard Brooks battled anxiety, how Darren Sproles battled his stutter, numerous stories on how these young athletes, high school athletes battling cancer. One of the first stories I've ever written, God rest his soul, was on a young man named Ted Novak who went and played for Penwood High School and wound up passing away, I think, at the age of 21 of cancer. Wow. I mean, it's a while ago. It's a long time ago. God rest his soul. I mean, I think Ted would be in his early to mid-50s, and today. But, I mean, that's stuff that stays with you. I covered Amy Ward, God rest her soul. I mean, Amy was the one that was killed in cold blood by a murderer who I think is still in jail, who every once in a while he comes up for parole. So those things stay with you. Those things don't.
How hard is it going through those?
It's not easy, and I'm the kind of guy that, again, I pride myself on this, again, because you know me pretty well, that if I'm going to invest myself into doing something like that, I'm going to invest myself. This person,
you went to Ukraine, didn't you?
Yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah. There was a little time there. Yeah. I through the K𝐤𝐥𝐿, and we got to I got to see what that whole thing was about. I remember picking up what I thought. I'll stop here with this. I remember picking up what I thought was a doll's arm, and it wasn't a doll's arm. I'll stop there with that.
Wow.
But
it was a baby's arm.
Yeah.
Wow. So, for anyone not out there that is trying to understand the situation in the Ukraine war,
they are fighting for us. You have, and it still goes on. I saw the piece on 60 Minutes last night, and I was the with me were the 𝐒𝐤𝐥𝐿 brothers. I mean, through the boxing connection, and to see what these people are genuinely going through, and it was amazing. They're amazing people. I'll stop there.
So you're talking about. So why did you originally go there? What was it about?
Just to find out what was going on behind the scenes, and there's still some things there that, again, I can't get into. That
I know, boxing world and whatnot. So I was just curious as to what you were going there for. What was there a story?
Yeah, just to find out, basically through the connection of the 𝐒𝐤𝐿, just to find out what was happening there. And basically the heartache that these people go through, which is unfathomable. I mean, this is all like, boom. This is a delicacy. All this is a delicacy. The toilet paper is a delicacy. A bottle of water is a delicacy. And we saw that, like, last night, for example. I think it might have been Scott Pelley from 60 Minutes that went back over to visit and spend time with the Ukrainian president. And you see a moment there where they caught the Ukrainian president. It was supposed to be off camera, but for a second there, he turns away. Scott Pelley thought it was just for effect, that maybe the Ukrainian president was thinking about, let me turn around and my sour face. But I think it's real. I think it's genuine. I mean, this man feels the blood and pain of his people. And again, we are now, the United States is plunging billions, not millions now, billions into what's going on here. And to realize,
it's become their war. It's become the United States war, essentially.
In some regards, yeah. And the way
it seems to me is, if the United States is putting all the money up, right?
Yeah, we're helping them. Yeah.
Well, when you do that, and it becomes not just helping, but you essentially are providing the amounts of billions and billions and billions and billions, constantly new packages sent out. It's their war. It's become literally the United States war.
You could say, in a way, they're fighting our war as a proxy.
Yes, that's what essentially I was getting to.
Much like in a way you had Korea, they were our, that was our blood. That was U.S. blood.
That was U.S. blood.
And
a little bit different.
Vietnam, but whereas Russia was backing the North Vietnamese during the Vietnam War, how China backed the North Koreans during the Korean War, we are backing the Ukrainians, like we backed Afghanistan when Russia had invaded Afghanistan. So you have a lot of this going on, and Putin is reaching and grabbing and so desperate that he has prisoners fighting, out there as a way, for their freedom. I I like to think that it's going to be solved. I like to think that.
I do. I'm with you. I think the most important thing
I don't
getting people to stop dying
Yeah,
and getting it settled.
And it doesn't come up unless we educate ourselves. And apparently, I can also say this, Matt. There's not a hell of a lot of people educated in this country. They don't. I mean, they see they see the 2 inches in front of their face, and that's all they see. Like I said, that piece on 60 Minutes was important last night because it shows you we are still plunging a lot of money, a lot of resources into this, and right now most of that is in the weapons. It's almost a country of almost exclusively men. It's like man's world. You have Copland, but this is like man land. Because the women, children, they're all out talking to Usyk. Talking to Alexander Usyk, to your audience out there, he's a heavyweight champion. Talking to Lomachenko, who is a former lightweight champion. They are Ukrainian. They still go back. They still live there on occasion. But it's weird. I remember talking to Usyk and hearing something in the background, and him just going, "Oh, that's just a bomb." I can laugh now. I wasn't laughing then. But that's what they've come accustomed to day after day over there. And my fear, Matt, is
that's also the amazing part of being in the United States of America. We've never had a war on our soil. And people don't understand how...
the Civil War, we were fighting ourselves.
Yes.
And the Revolutionary War.
From outside.
The Revolutionary War and the War of 1812 was the first real invasion because technically speaking, we were not a country. But in 1812, the British thought they would get back, but they lost during the Revolutionary War. So yeah, we've had war on our soil.
We've had war, but not from outside forces necessarily. Do you understand what I'm saying?
No, England tried to invade us.
Yes. Okay. 1812 and 200 years.
Yes, it's been a long while.
So we don't have war on our soil often.
No one's invaded us since England tried to invade us.
I mean, you could talk about Pearl Harbor and whatnot, but.
Yeah.
For the most part.
Yeah, and Hawaii wasn't a state then. Hawaii was not a state
for
then.
the most part.
And then we can kind of lean into 9/11. Oh, there you go. 9/11. I remember being, with Bernard Hopkins during that time. I mean, that was we were all supposed to be down there at that very area when that hit.
Wow.
And one of the rare times in his life, Hopkins was late. And Bernard Hopkins is never late for anything. And that morning, for some strange reason, he was late. And that set off a whole time frame of different things in terms of traveling, getting down there, the whole bit like that. And because Trinidad and Hopkins was supposed to take place Saturday, September 15th of that very week.
2 days after.
Yeah. And everything was supposed to be set up. Obviously, the terrorist attack happens. Everything happens where, again, that structure where, the sports world collides with the real world. And I remember going back down there and spending time with all people, again, Don King, and bringing us to ground zero. And I didn't think it would strike me the way it struck me. But I remember there's a glass enclosure there that was a walkway that was intact, but obviously all dusty and dirty from the World Trade Centers collapsing. And I remember, because I had to walk away. And we were down there in a fairly quick time. I think it might have been a week after it happened. And I also remember it might have been one of the firemen that told us, because there was a distinct smell that I would never, I got that smell again. I got that smell in a certain particular foreign country very recently. But I remember asking the fireman, what the hell is that smell? He says, this is the smell of a battlefield, man. I mean, you got, granted, I mean, these bodies were destroyed. There were hardly any, these bodies were torn apart, but it's still that smell of a battlefield, and that's the smell that it had, which will never leave my nostrils.
Wow.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. A lot of fun, and hopefully there's some fun in a couple of weeks. With some things coming up here.
So what do you have coming up? Yeah.
We have the Eagles coming up with some things they're cooking. Hopefully they'll be on Dad's radio show with.
Sports betting show.
Yeah.
On Sirius XM Radio, channel 159, Sports Grid.
Yeah.
And
talking
Jacob
about
Media.
talking about some upcoming fights. So I'm excited about that. I think Boots Ennis is going to fight one more time before the end of the year. Excited about that, and we'll see where things go with the Eagles. They're 2-0 right now. Dallas is 2-0 right now. San Francisco's 2-0 right now. But I'm going to put it to you, man. You're a guy that's right there on the cutting edge of all this stuff. Out of those three teams, who's the best team in the NFC?
Cowboys. And I say that as a Philadelphia Eagles fan.
But as
that
a
means a
realistic
lot.
person, yeah.
That means a lot. Yeah. It's not a bias. Put your emotional bias on the side, and you make a decision.
Yeah.
I bet the Cowboys to win the Super Bowl. So, Dallas Cowboys.
Second. Who's second in the NFC?
Second's tough. We'll see how things play out. San Fran has proven to be, first 2 weeks, very strong. Brock Purdy is playing.
Very, very, a lot better than people think.
Mr. Irrelevant is very, very relevant.
Yeah. And I think right now, the way the Eagles are playing and the way Jalen Hurts looks, I think the Eagles are third.
They look beatable.
Yeah, they look very, very beatable. I mean, if they played San Francisco or Dallas the first two games, they'd be 0-2. Easily 0-2. I don't know if Dallas is certainly not going to smoke them 40-0 like they smoked the Giants or 30-10 like they beat the Jets. But they are right now. There's holes there, man. There's holes there that need to be filled. So it's going to be fun to see how this all plays out. And knowing the Philadelphia fan base, I like to think just being in different areas, being in different cities. I want to hope that through time the Philadelphia fan base grows more objective. I understand they're all fans and everything else like that, but sometimes you have to look at what's really out there. And what's really out there is a team that can't throw the ball as well as they should be. It's a team that now you have to wonder, and you would know this, and certainly your dad knows this. Use the term in boxing all the time is, Father Time's undefeated. You have an aging offensive line. You have to start asking yourself that question of where these guys are right now. I mean, Kelsey's still very good, but you're starting to see some things there with Lane Johnson. You're starting to see some cracks. We'll call them fissures. Fissures are small cracks.
So speaking of these changes, right?
Yeah.
Real quick, I want to ask you about the state of boxing and how it's changed. Right now we have, because I want to talk about this before we wrap up.
Yeah.
The state of boxing, we have great fighters like Inoue, right?
Yeah.
Stephen Fulton,
yeah.
My good friend, amazing person, Stephen. A great story with Wahid. Raheem. We have also now, we talked about Canelo Alvarez, but we also have celebrity boxing coming in now with Logan Paul and etc. Logan Paul, Jake Paul. Is boxing changing? Is that helping the sport, the celebrity boxing? Tell me your breakdown, your analysis, and your opinion.
This is going to shock some folks because I hate to admit this, and it's creeping up as I'm getting older. There's a little bit of that get off my old man mentality here. But I'm going to maybe shock a few people. I'm actually in favor of what Jake Paul's doing, and the reason why I say that is you have to get as many people involved, as many young people involved as they can. You look at the demographic that follows the sport right now. They are old dudes. I'm in my 50s. There are old guys that follow this sport. I know very few, and I know younger people, very few of them under the age of 30 who even know who the heavyweight champion of the world is right now. I mean,
they're all in MMA.
Yeah, Matt. And I see, and here's the kicker too, is boxers get paid more. They get paid more than what we see in UFC in the MMA world. But boxing has had a habit of this dysfunction. It has a habit of that there's biases there. Where UFC is one league. All those guys got to fight each other. If they don't, Dana White's got to toss your tail. That's it. Boxing doesn't have to deal with that. They could deal with whoever my fiefdom is at that time. I'm going to keep it in-house where you have top-ranked fighters fighting top-ranked fighters. You have PBC fighters fighting PBC fighters. Even though I will say this, and what we're seeing more of, and we saw that very recently with Spence and Crawford. I mean, I know Heyman gets a bit of a knock with PBC fighters fighting PBC fighters, but he's allowed his guys the freedom. For Stephen Fulton's another example. If my fighter has a chance, and this I'll give credit to Heyman with this, his fighters have a chance to make a buck. No matter who they're fighting or what promotional banner they're fighting under. I got a chance. Stephen Fulton was going to make a career high payday fighting _𝐒𝐚𝐽, who is promoted by Top Rank. So if that fight could be made, yeah, go for it, bud. All power to you. But regrettably, you have a lot of people that get in the way of that sometimes, and it leads to the business that we're dealing with right now. I mean, and getting way back with Jake Paul, I will say this: he brings attention to the sport to younger people, and hopefully, if he's drawing some people in, who's to say? He's drawing 25 people in. Who's to say maybe 5 or 6 of them start to delve in? Well, I like this sport. Let me see about this guy, or let me see about that guy. The other thing I like about Jake Paul is he's brought up the disparity sometimes and how guys are getting paid. And I think that is huge. So him and the platform he has and speaking up for these guys and the monies that they should be making, I think is helpful to the sport. And people don't want to hear that, especially, maybe from someone like me, but I think it's good.
So Jake Paul, for example, a kid that started on Vine, went to Disney, and then started doing content, became a content creator and whatnot, and eventually now he's become he's been fighting celebrity boxing, doing all of those events. Are you surprised by how fast he entered the boxing world and took over, or are you surprised at maybe his level of skill? From just never growing up being in the boxing world necessarily, but then coming into it and being able to fight professional fighters, whether they're from the MMA or...
I give him credit from what I know and understand, I give him credit for his commitment. I give him credit. I mean, this guy is, and I saw it, and I hear it a number of times, how he has invested himself into, and again, you would know this, Matt. I mean, boxing is a lifestyle. It's a lifestyle, and kind of in a way, I hate to say it, covering it is a bit of a lifestyle because you have to deal with different people, different personalities, and it's certainly a lifestyle if you're committed to it, because if you're not committed to it, you can be seriously hurt in boxing, and I've seen it twice, and it's twice too many, where tragic things have happened in the ring. Jake Paul prepares himself. He works very, very hard. My only thing with Jake Paul is, dude, you're a C-level fighter. Fight someone at a C level. Don't fight some of these jokers that are out there. People are going to still come and watch you fight. I mean, he lost to I think he lost to Tyson Fury's brother, right?
Might have, yes.
Yeah, I think he did. Yeah, he lost to Tyson Fury's brother, one fight prior to his most recent fight.
So. Sometimes I get confused with Logan Paul and Jake Paul. That's why. That's the only reason.
Yeah. Jake Paul didn't he just? I think he just beat Anderson Silva, and I think he just fought Anderson Silva and beat him. But I like the fact that he's gaining some young attention to the sport, and hopefully again, if that spins off to some of these younger people taking a interest in it, that to me is a plus. And again, he brings attention to the sport. Because the thing I like about Jake Paul is he'll talk, obviously he's going to talk about himself, but he'll also bring up every once in a while just how these guys should be paid, and he'll bring up maybe a fighter here or a fighter there, and what he likes to see. And what's that do is that brings awareness to a higher platform, and that higher platform brings awareness to a larger audience. So and anything that gives attention to the sport of boxing is good.
So if you had a chance to interview Jake Paul and talk about his story, write about his story, about coming into the boxing world, would you accept that opportunity?
Oh my God, yeah, in a heartbeat. I tried to reach out to him a few times. Now he's promoting Serrano. Amanda Serrano was part of our first ever, the BWA, the Boxing Writers Association. We just named our first female fight of the year for the first time ever in the history of the organization. Serrano was part of that. She is promoted by Jake Paul. I tried to reach out to Jake, but I got one of Jake's top people. So at least there's some dialogue there. And I'd love to have Jake Paul at one of our BWA awards dinners. If he's around in New York sometime in March or April of 2024, I'd love to have Jake Paul there.
So Jake Paul, if you're out there, if you watch this and you're listening,
yeah,
Joe Santoliquito wants to invite you to the
president of the BWA.
The president of the Boxing Writers Association wants to invite you.
Boxing Writers Association of America.
Yeah. Wants to invite you to the dinner.
Yes, to our awards dinner next year.
Awards dinner. So if you're watching out there, take note. Thank you, Joe, for coming on.
Yeah,
this has been an amazing show. I was so happy that you joined me.
Yeah,
and we got to talk about your life, life in general, Philadelphia Eagles, of course, NFL, boxing, life, Ukraine war, and everything else. It's really a pleasure sitting down with you, a good friend of mine. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me, man.
I hope you enjoyed the coffee.
I did, yeah. I got it. Yeah, I did. And I've never drank coffee before in my life.
Well, that's a sign to get Coffee of Gods, get electricity, put electricity and lightning in your veins. The Maltepes Show. Maltepes Show brought to you by Coffee of Gods. Thank you guys for listening, watching. I appreciate all of you. Have a great night.